All right, so today we're diving into some really heavy stuff.
Yeah.
You guys sent in some material on the renewed conflict in Gaza, and just right off the bat,
Right away. Yeah.
it's obviously a deeply concerning and complicated situation.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
Where do we even...
yeah, so like at its heart,
Yeah.
this deep dive is about trying to figure out like why after a ceasefire, we're
Yeah.
seeing this like full-scale
Full-on...
Israeli military attack
Right back in...
back in Gaza.
Yeah.
So, the text you sent is mainly from the Indian Express.
Okay.
And it really gives us some insight into what's going on both domestically and internationally.
For sure.
So, what we want to do today is try to cut through all the noise
Right.
and help you guys understand what's motivating this, like, resumption of hostility.
Yeah, what's behind it?
Yeah, and particularly what it means for any chance of long-term peace.
Mm-hmm. That's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, can we even hope for that?
Exactly. And for those of you prepping for your UPSC exams, yes, very relevant.
This is, like the core of what you need to understand.
Absolutely.
Like this intersection of international relations and regional security
Big time.
and all the domestic political
Yeah,
factors.
it's all tied together.
So yeah, really understanding this situation.
For sure.
Using good sources like the Indian Express
Always crucial.
will be super valuable for your prep,
Couldn't agree more.
for mains,
Yeah.
and even prelims.
You never know.
You never know.
Right.
So, okay, let's jump right in.
Let's do it.
Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister,
Right.
has straight up said that, like, this whole bombing thing
Yeah.
is just the beginning.
Just the beginning. Wow.
Yeah, so that's a pretty strong statement.
It is. Especially right after a ceasefire.
Right.
Like, what does that even mean?
Exactly, and it seems like it's pointing towards a long engagement.
Oh, for sure.
Like, they're committed to this military pressure
Right.
rather than just, like, a quick operation.
Not a quick in and out. No.
Yeah. And the source actually uses this phrase,
Okay.
full-scale Israeli military attack on Gaza.
Yeah, that's significant.
Isn't it?
That has some weight to it.
Pretty significant.
Big implications.
Yeah, both for civilians
Of course.
and for regional stability overall.
Absolutely.
And then there's the fact that this breaks a signed ceasefire with Hamas.
Right. That's not nothing.
Like, what can we even take away from that decision to just, like...
Walk away.
Yeah, to abandon the agreement.
Yeah. I mean, it's got to mean that negotiations were like...
Stalemate.
Yeah, at a standstill.
Lead in the water.
Totally.
And that they're prioritizing military goals over anything else.
Yeah. I mean, ceasefires are always fragile.
Of course.
But when they fall apart, it shows that at least one side
Yeah.
thinks diplomacy just isn't working.
Yeah, it doesn't cut it.
Or that it's not enough on its own.
Or that they don't even want to try it.
Right, exactly.
And the Indian Express brings up this point
Yeah.
about this, like, long-standing pattern of, like, squashing any possibility of peace.
Oh, yeah, that's a scary thought.
Which is
Like, is peace even on the table?
super concerning.
For real.
Yeah.
So where do we go from there?
Okay, here's where it gets interesting.
Okay, listening.
Particularly when we think about Israeli politics.
Right, the domestic scene.
Yeah, so the article suggests that, like, the timing of these attacks could be tied to internal stuff happening in Israel.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, like, it's not just about Gaza.
Yeah.
It's about what's going on within Israel, too.
Exactly. And it's like geopolitical things, they don't happen in a bubble.
Never.
They're always tied up with what's going on politically in the countries involved.
100%.
And the Indian Express makes a good argument for looking at this desire of its political leadership to continue the conflict as a regular matter of politics.
Wow.
Like, that's a direct quote.
Yeah, that's...
And it's like a key factor here.
It's like they need the conflict to function. That's a disturbing thought.
So there's also this whole internal conflict with Netanyahu firing the Shin Bet director, Ronan Bar.
Right. I read about that.
What was the main disagreement there?
Well, according to the Indian Express, Ronan Bar was mainly focused on getting those Israeli hostages back.
Right.
Like, that was his priority.
Makes sense.
Even if it meant more negotiations.
Right.
Or maybe even concessions.
Giving something up.
Exactly. And him getting fired suggests that, like, that approach wasn't what Netanyahu wanted.
Right. They weren't on the same page.
And by the way, for you UPSC folks.
Yeah, good point.
Understanding the different parts of Israeli security.
Yeah, like the Shin Bet.
Like the Shin Bet. Exactly. Their internal security service. Knowing how they work and what they think.
Yeah, their perspective.
Yeah. that can really give you an edge.
Absolutely.
It's all about those details.
So Netanyahu and his right-wing allies,
Yeah.
they seem to want to take a totally different path.
Right. A different approach altogether.
Yeah, so the article really points to this preference for, like,
The stronger.
a more forceful military response.
Yeah, exactly.
And them choosing to fire the Shin Bet director, especially because he was so focused on the hostages,
Right.
really shows how much they're prioritizing the military option.
Yeah, they're all in on that.
And they're even, like, ignoring the hostages' families who are pleading for their release.
That's just heartbreaking.
Yeah, it's like a total disconnect
Totally.
between what the leaders want
Yeah.
and the human cost of this conflict.
It's like they've lost sight of the people involved.
Exactly.
It's so sad.
So the Indian Express lays out these potential reasons for why Netanyahu is pushing for this military action.
Okay, let's hear it.
And they're pretty specific.
Okay.
They're talking about things like keeping his coalition government together, the need to get the budget passed before the end of March,
TikTok.
and even the court cases that are going on against him.
Oh, wow. Yeah, he's got a lot on his plate.
Right. And when you put it all together,
Yeah.
it becomes pretty clear how his own political weaknesses
Right.
might be influencing these major national security decisions.
So it's personal, too.
Yeah, and there's like this urgency with the budget.
Yeah.
The coalition is shaky.
Fragile.
Yeah, and then you've got his own legal troubles. It
Right.
all creates this like
Yeah,
complicated web of incentives
Yeah.
that the article suggests are pushing this escalation.
It's like a pressure cooker.
And for our UPSC listeners,
Yes, pay attention.
this is a classic example
Textbook case.
of how domestic pressures and foreign policy decisions
They're all intertwined.
get all tangled up.
Yeah, they're inseparable, really.
So then you have Itamar Ben-Gvir coming back into the picture.
Oh, yeah, he's back.
So he quit after the last ceasefire,
Right.
but then he rejoined Netanyahu's government.
Immediately.
Yeah, as soon as the military stuff started up again.
Wow, that's,
It's a pretty big move.
it is, yeah.
What do you make of that?
Well, it definitely shows us the direction they're headed.
Right.
And there's this quote from Ben-Gvir in Haaretz
Okay.
that the Indian Express picks up on.
Yeah.
He calls the new military action the right, moral, ethical, and justified step.
Wow, he's not holding back.
No, he's all in on this.
Right, and that shows how much they agree
Oh, yeah, they're on the same page.
on this course of action.
Completely.
And bringing him back really strengthens Netanyahu's position,
For sure, it's a power move.
especially at such a critical moment.
Yeah, he needs all the support he can get.
So the Indian Express makes this really powerful observation
Okay.
about how the sad reality is that the political survival of right-wing leaders like Netanyahu depended on creating conditions that enable never-ending hostilities.
Wow.
And that war becomes the means to do everyday politics.
That's a heavy statement.
It is really heavy.
Yeah.
Like it's saying the war is how they stay in power.
Yeah, it's disturbing.
It is, and it makes you wonder
Yeah.
if their survival depends on conflict.
How can they ever really want peace?
It's like a catch-22.
Totally.
So then there's this whole thing about how Netanyahu and his people felt like they took a hit.
A hit.
Yeah, when Hamas pulled off that hostage exchange.
Right during the ceasefire.
Yeah, and the Indian Express calls it a compelling show of the exchange of Israeli hostages.
Interesting.
So how do you think that's playing into the current situation?
Well, it seems like even though the hostage release was good, on a human level,
Right, of course.
some of the Israeli government might have seen it as a win for Hamas,
Right.
which undermines their whole goal of, dismantling the organization.
Yeah, like they want to wipe them out.
Right, and they haven't been able to do that.
Even after months of military action,
Like-
since October 2023.
Right, so this new operation,
Yeah,
it's still about that same objective.
destroying Hamas.
Yep, by going after their government and military capabilities.
It's the same
It's a
playbook.
playbook that hasn't worked.
It hasn't worked so far. So the Indian Express also talks about how Israel supposedly broke the ceasefire
Oh, really? How so?
and tried to pressure Hamas.
Okay.
So what were the main points there?
Well, the article says that Israel blocked humanitarian aid to Gaza
Wow.
back in early March.
So they're saying it was intentional
Yeah, like a tactic
to put the squeeze on Hamas,
to force them to do what?
to make them extend the ceasefire
Okay,
and release more hostages.
right.
And this is similar to what Trump did
Oh, really?
back when he was trying to negotiate
Interesting.
with Norwegian.
So same strategy, different president.
Exactly.
Hmm.
And what was Hamas saying in response to all this?
Right. What do they want?
Yeah.
Well, according to the Indian Express,
Mhm.
Hamas wanted to go straight to the second part of the agreement,
Which was?
which was the prisoner exchange.
Okay, so swapping hostages for Palestinian prisoners.
Exactly, and this is where things get sticky.
Right.
Israel seems to have wanted more hostages released
Before moving on.
before moving on. Yeah, and Hamas was like, nope,
Yeah.
prisoners first.
Right, and that disagreement.
Huge roadblock.
Yeah, probably played a big part in the ceasefire falling apart.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And the article even suggests that Netanyahu
Yeah.
and maybe even Trump were not that keen on seeing those later parts of the agreement actually happen.
Like they didn't want to follow through.
It seems that way.
Wow.
So let's talk about the U.S.
Okay. Their role in all this.
Yeah, the article says that the initial ceasefire might have actually been because of the changing political situation in the U.S.
Oh, you mean with Trump coming in?
Exactly.
Right, that makes sense.
It's like international and regional stuff all mixed together.
It always is.
So the Indian Express implies that both Biden on his way out
Yeah.
and Trump coming in
Mm.
wanted a ceasefire in place for the transition.
Okay.
So it created this
Window.
this short-lived opportunity for that first agreement,
Right.
even though it didn't last.
It was built on shaky ground.
Exactly. And now with Trump back in charge,
Yeah.
what's the U.S. position now?
Right. Have things changed?
Yeah. Is it back to the usual U.S. approach?
Well, the article says that even though there were some early signs,
Yeah.
Trump is mostly back to that traditional U.S. policy in the Middle East.
Which is
Strong, unwavering support for Israel,
no matter what.
pretty much.
And the article points out that pro-Palestinian voices in the U.S.
Right.
have been silenced under Trump.
Which isn't surprising.
Sadly, no.
It's a pattern we've seen before.
And here's an interesting tidbit.
Okay.
The White House press secretary confirmed that Israel did talk to Washington
Before the attack.
before they launched the new military campaign.
So they knew what was coming.
Yeah. What do you think that tells us?
Well, it shows that they're coordinating.
For sure.
Or at least communicating.
Before major military action.
Right, it's not like a surprise.
And the press secretary's warning to Hamas,
Yeah.
that whole all hell will break loose thing.
Oh, yeah. Classic Trump.
Yeah. That really shows how closely their policies are aligned.
We're on the same page.
And that the U.S. is totally backing Israel's security concerns.
100%.
So lastly, the Indian Express talks about how all of this is affecting the people in Gaza.
Yeah.
And they bring up this concept of sumud.
Sumud.
Can you explain that a bit?
So the article describes how people in Gaza are going back to their lives.
After the bombing?
Yeah. Trying to rebuild.
Then they get hit again?
It's just devastating.
It's awful.
And sumud is this Arabic word
Okay.
that's really important in Palestinian culture.
What does it mean?
It means steadfastness,
Okay.
resilience, this like unbreakable spirit in the face of hardship.
So even after all this
Like,
conflict,
even after all the challenges.
they're still determined to stay on their land.
Exactly. It's about holding on to hope.
And the Indian Express ends on a pretty bleak note.
Oh, I know.
They say that the world has failed them
That's tough.
and that their fight against occupation hasn't led to any real political progress.
It's like they're fighting a losing battle.
Yeah, and that Israel is just constantly delaying any chance of peace.
It's like peace is always just out of reach.
So what we see here is this deep sense of disillusionment
Yeah.
and abandonment
Like they've been left behind.
among Palestinians.
And it shows how little progress has been made
Yeah.
toward a real political solution.
Even after decades of international involvement.
And countless lives lost.
It's a tragedy.
It really is.
And for our UPSC friends,
Yes, a take note.
understanding these perspectives and the history of this conflict
Super important.
is crucial for understanding the whole region.
Absolutely.
So to sum it all up, this
Yeah.
renewed conflict,
It's not just random.
no, it's not out of the blue.
It's part of a bigger picture.
And the Indian Express really highlights
They lay it all out.
this complex mix of Israeli politics,
Right.
strategic goals about Hamas, and the influence of global players like the U.S.
All tangled up together.
And it shows this pattern where military action is always chosen over diplomacy
Right.
with devastating consequences for the people in Gaza.
It's a sad reality.
So for those of you studying for your UPSC exams,
Yes, this is for you.
understanding these motivations and the history
So important.
is absolutely key.
Crucial.
This isn't just some current event.
Nope.
This reflects long-standing issues in the region
That affect everyone.
that shape global politics.
Absolutely.
So think about how domestic and foreign policy decisions
Yeah.
contribute to these never-ending conflicts.
Right?
And look at the different players.
Who's involved?
Yeah, and what they're trying to achieve.
What are their goals?
And the Indian Express does a great job of shedding light on all of that.
It's a great resource.
So we hope this deep dive has given you a better grasp of this really complex issue.
Yeah, we hope it's helpful.
Drawing from those insights in the Indian Express.
It's all about using good sources.
If you have more questions or there are specific things you want us to explore in future deep dives,
Yeah, let us know.
leave a comment below.
We love hearing from you.
And if you found this helpful for your studies,
Yes, if it helped you out,
please like and subscribe
so you don't miss the next one
for more in-depth analyses of important topics.
that can help you with your exams.
And this whole analysis was based on that Indian Express article.
So big shout out to them.
All right, so here's something to think about.
Okay?
Given how cyclical this conflict is,
Right.
which your sources really highlighted,
Like it just keeps repeating.
what fundamental changes,
Yeah.
both in the region
Mm-hmm.
and in the international community,
Yeah,
would it take to break this pattern
that's the million-dollar question.
and create a path toward real, lasting peace?
A piece that sticks.
Yeah,
It's a tough one, but worth thinking about.
definitely something to ponder.